Alii and hello, I'm your host Erithrina Palau. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a first year rhetoric major from the Republic of Palau, and this is the first episode of the Oceanic Podcast, a project produced by UC Berkeley's Critical Pacific Island Studies Collective, otherwise known as CPISC. I'm here with two of CPISC's founders. Please introduce yourselves to our listeners.
Hi, I'm Kieran Rudge. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a PhD student in environmental science and policy at UC Berkeley. And I'm originally from Singapore and grew up in New York.
Hi, my name's Sophia Perez. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a third year geography PhD student, and I am Chamorro mixed. Grew up in the Bay, have lived on Saipan as well, and I'm just super happy to be here.
Thank you. So, what is the story behind CPISC?
Well, CPISC started when a handful of grad students at Berkeley just were hoping to create a space where we could study the Pacific. There's not that many opportunities here at Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to be able to work together and try and fill in the gaps by researching collaboratively, basically. We started out actually focused on the Mariana Islands, but over time we found that we were super interested in expanding our focus and working in community with Pacific Islanders and people interested in the whole Pacific. But I don't know, Kieran, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think that sums it up really well. I mean, for us here coming to UC Berkeley as PhD students, we were really trying to carve out space to focus on these issues. And what we were noticing is there's lots of these regional focus centers across the university, across the UC, focused on like Latin American studies, focused on East Asia, but nothing that was really providing resources or faculty mentorship or anything like that for Pacific Islands and Oceania. So Sophia and I, as well as our other co-founder Nate in anthropology, really were trying to work together to build that space that the university wasn't provided for us.
So would you guys say like CPISC has a main focal point?
Yeah, so I think there are a few main sort of issues that we're really interested in. So one of the things that brought us together was thinking about demilitarization and the role of the US military and the colonial legacy across the Pacific Islands. And so we really came together, like Sophia was saying, focusing on the Marianas and how the military's presence in the US territories was really different and so not talked about as much here. So I would say like demilitarization and then environmental justice really are some of our main focal points. Yeah.
Yeah, and then any interest in either of those subjects, you end up talking about colonialism, indigenous sovereignty. I mean, you could really approach these topics from like so many different fields, actually. So uh, we're open to interdisciplinary approaches. A lot of people focus on very particular different things, but what we found is that we're really able to cross pollinate. Like even if your research interests seem really different, there's so much to share between different approaches to thinking about the Pacific. So it's been super helpful to have a place to work together.
Yeah, speaking from personal experience, I just think it's like CPIS kind of provides that safe space for us as Pacific Islanders to kind of come together and talk about issues that only we can relate to each other about, like US militarization in our islands and, climate change and the controversy that surrounds climate change. As the host of this first season of the Oceanic Podcast, I'm going to focus on major issues concerning Palau and their intersections across Oceania. That's why this season's title will be Palau. Our goal is to spread awareness on important topics such as US militarization, climate change, and resource availability. And to furthermore create a safe space for Pacific Islanders, to learn about their cultures, their lands, how they're impacted by foreign influences, and how they can help. Why is this happening? Why is it important? How can people support? I think those are like important questions to ask and for our listeners to keep in mind.
And I'm so excited about this season. I'm so happy, Arthurina, that you're down to make this the focus and jump all over this. And I just want to say I am so grateful to you, Arthurina, for being down to take this podcast in this direction. I'm so interested and curious what will come of this. And I'm so excited to listen to the conversations you're about to have. And I just want to create a space right now for you to just reflect on your experience of these issues having been raised in Palau.
I mean, yeah. So having been raised in Palau, there's a lot that I can talk about. Coming from a more like political standpoint, I'd say Palau's challenges are economic and social in nature. So as an independent nation since 1994, Palau has worked to become more independent in its economic status, and this has been a challenge due to the economies of scale. So Palau is a remote and isolated island. It has a population of about roughly 18,000. Our main source of economy in the private sector is the tourism industry, which is obviously with COVID and everything volatile in its nature. You never really know because it's dependent on, global events as well. And our relationship with the United States through the Compact of Free Association is an agreement of a partnership in which we receive financial assistance and other benefits such as living, working, and schooling in the United States freely. And in return, Palau commits to provide defense sites for the United States in the event of war. So I think I was talking to you guys about this earlier, but we have like in-state tuition, our newest renewal of the COFA with the United States included like this in-state tuition. So I'm extremely blessed that that opportunity was given to me. But yeah, and in the partnership with the United States, Palau has become a westernized society. But at the same time, we face the challenge of retaining our culture and our tradition. So an instance I was telling you about was, not being able to speak my own language in school. And of course they have reasons for that because our teachers were primarily, like white or like foreigners. And so for us to speak our own language, it kind of poses like oh, are you cheating? Oh, are you talking bad about people? They never really know. And so it's only fair, but at the same time, it's like, it's our land. We should be able to speak our own language.
I just want to say, like, I appreciate what you're saying about why your school didn't allow for like the Palauan language to be spoken, but I also wanted to push back against it. You know what I mean? Just because, sure, it's confusing for like a teacher that came from the
Hmm.
States that doesn't speak Palauan to try and manage that class, but I
Hmm.
also think if you're gonna move to another place and teach, it's your job to learn that language, you know?
Exactly.
Just I wouldn't try and move to a Latin American country and then teach in English, But go ahead, Kieran.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true. It's even the case here. Like, you have people that move into like predominantly like Latinx communities in the South Bay, and they're not supporting their students in speaking Spanish. There's across the board, anytime a student is not able to learn in their native language or like they're actively discouraged from speaking it at school, even that's definitely like hindering their ability to learn the actual concepts that they're supposed to be learning in school or to like socialize in school.
And I find it really interesting, not to call out my school, but there were instances where the teacher was foreign, as in they had their own language that they could speak, and they would speak amongst each other or to other students who could speak that language. But when we spoke Palauan, it was like all hell broke loose. And I was
Come
like,
on
at a
now.
very young age, I kind of clocked it. Like, it was sixth grade. Oh, this is so specific. People that listen to this will know who I'm talking about. No, but like instances like that where it was like, why are you speaking your own language when I'm not like allowed to speak my own language? Like if you're gonna impose these rules on me, impose it on everybody that's like here in school. Yeah, our leaders have noticed like that our quality of speaking our own language has degraded over time, especially with my school being the only school that prohibits you from speaking your own language, specifically Palauan. I come from like the Koror Elementary SDA school, and having grown up in that school, that's all I've known. And so, not being able to speak my own language besides in Palauan class has, of course, been sort of problematic. And people always say like, "Oh, you should learn it at home." Like your language comes from home, which is true. But not being able to practice it for, you know, 8 hours a day, etc., when most of your life is spent in school for at least 9 months is, it kind of does degrade the quality of speaking that you have of your own language, like regardless of whether you speak it at home or not. So, one of the key elements that separates Palau from the rest of the world, too, is that we're a matrilineal society. So, we have our women hold just as much authority as the men. This stems from our traditions from the old and still maintains. An example of this would be that the senior women in a clan or family choose the high chiefs for the villages and states, and this is translated into modern day politics as well.
You know, when you brought up the matrilineal society thing, it made me also think of Chamorro culture, which started off matrilineal. And I think that just scandalized the Spanish, basically, um, who were all about men being the property owners at the time. It's interesting how different societies have very different expectations of who's supposed to own land, right? And like who is the anchor of the family.
Yeah, totally. And like what it even means to relate to the land, like how you are able to like own the land can even vary, right? Like we've seen other examples where the land ownership technically is only like in the hands of like the indigenous communities, but then it gets leased out for 99 years to tourism and hotels that are owned by like these outside European companies. So there's like what's going on with the landowners, and then there's who's
Mhm.
actually like controlling the actual systems and like the economy there.
Yeah, and in the Northern Mariana Islands, still you have to be of NMI descent is like the status that they made it in order to own land. But it's interesting because there was Chamorros and Carolinians on those islands when there was the talks about political status after the trust territories, and they created like the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands. So you don't have to be Chamorro. You could be Chamorro or Carolinian and you can own land on those islands. And then there's nothing of the sort on Guam. But like you said, Kieran, a lot of times it's Chamorros and Carolinians leasing their lands out to, you know, Chinese or American companies or Japanese.
Yeah. No, I find that interesting because, like, in Palau, that also happens too, where we have like foreigners buying out land and basically building buildings and having those buildings abandoned and like in horrible condition. And all they do that for is, I mean, economic sabotaging. Like, they do it and then they abandon it, and like no local businesses, no local people can like buy it off because obviously it's the expenses that it takes to not only remove the building but buy the land itself is double kill at that point.
I'm curious because in Chamorro culture, the women are usually the ones that handle the money.
Hmm.
Uh, how is it in Palauan culture?
I think it's contextual, so like it goes from family to family and kind of varies. But for the most part, so women do handle the money. Do they earn it? That's a question for the family to answer because, you know, in this modern day, women can earn the money as well. And then in the context of like traditional baby showers, that we call them omrats. Um, in the context of traditional baby showers, for example, you see the men bring the woman's family money, and the woman, like the woman's side of the family, simply have to make food for the men's side of the family. So just to kind of close with a few facts, I'm gonna leave like two different things to think about. So, one of our present day changes is the active presence of the military in Palau within the past 4 years. There's been a focused priority from the United States to strengthen presence and update the infrastructure of airports. I mentioned this a while ago to you guys, but the islands of Pililio and Angar are ongoing works to upgrade airports, and there's um, airstrips that haven't been taken care of that are being taken care of now. So yeah, in the space of climate change, as the world comes to terms on what to do, conservation has always been, you know, part of our existence. Like our first conservation area was actually created in 1956 by our forefathers. And in our practices for sustainability, it's actually been, um, I mean, since 1956, that's like what, almost,
Like
yeah.
70
So it's a
years.
it's a
Yeah.
long time that we've been like practicing these things. Okay, so our time here in the studio is wrapping up. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Oceanic Podcast. And we would like to thank our funder, the Green Initiative Fund at UC Berkeley, as well as the Ethnic Studies Changemaker Studio for helping us record this podcast. This podcast was made possible by research and planning by CPISC co-founders Sophia Perez, Kieran Rudge, and Nate Tilton, as well as CPISC members Viv Camerer and Georgia Cutter. CPISC's work also deeply benefits from the support of Angel Halafihi at the Pacific Islander Initiative and Dr. Clancy Wilma in the Geography Department. We hope to see you in the next episode, coming soon with our first official interviewee. So lang!